school bond. I'm Executive Editor Zach Charsky, and I'm serving as the moderator tonight. And we will get to questions in a couple minutes, but I had a few opening remarks. Also, this is being streamed live on the Gazette.com, so we have people that will be participating that way as well. On November 7th, voters who live within the boundaries of the Cedar Rapids School District are being asked to vote on Public Measure G, which would authorize the Cedar Rapids Community School District to issue up to $220 million in bonds to fund a series of improvements to district facilities. It's the district's first public bond referendum in 23 years, and the measure requires approval from 60% of the voters in order to pass. The language of the ballot is as follows. Shall the Board of Directors of the Cedar Rapids Community School District in the County of Lynn, State of Iowa, be authorized to contract indebtedness and issue general obligation bonds in an amount not to exceed $220 million to provide funds to A, construct, build, furnish, and equip a new middle school building and acquire and improve the site. B, renovate, remodel, and repair, improve, furnish, and equip kitchen cafe spaces at Kennedy High School building. C, construct, furnish, and equip career and technical education additions to Jefferson, Kennedy, and Washington High School locations. E, construct, build, furnish, and equip a gymnasium addition to Metro High School building and related remodeling. And F, renovate, remodel, repair, improve, furnish, and equip Franklin Middle School building and construct, furnish, and equip an addition to Franklin Middle School building and related remodeling. Possibly the longest question, but it is the question being posed to voters. In a few moments, you'll hear from Cedar Rapids Community School District Superintendent Dr. Tawana Grover, as well as Chief Financial Officer Carla Hogan, on details of the plan. They'll be given 10 minutes to present, followed by 5 minutes of questions from me. Under Iowa law, a school district can present factual information about a referendum and can ask for vote, but cannot advocate a position. From there, we'll hear from Bernie Hayes and Janelle Lund, who are representing opposition, and I'll ask questions following their 10 minutes of presentation for about 5 minutes. Following the opposition will be Scott Krasinski, volunteer with the Future Ready Schools of Cedar Rapids. Scott will present for 10 minutes. I'll ask questions for 5 and follow up from there. To the audience in the auditorium, if you have questions that you'd like to ask, you've been collecting them already and there's a good pile, please. The team will be sharing those with me as well. A quick note on tonight's participants. We've sought to include both yes and no organizations, but we also set a parameter that none of the panelists could be those that are seeking a school board seat in the November 7th election. That's in order to preserve fairness to all candidates. And then we ask everybody who's participating to conduct themselves with courtesy and respect. And we ask, please refrain from applause or loud remarks so that we can keep on the schedule. Well, I'll ask each of the panelists to kind of do a quick introduction. And Dr. Grover, I'll have you kind of start, explain a little bit about who you are, why you're here, and hand the microphone to your left.
Okay, wonderful. First of all, thank you so much to the Gazette for hosting this forum tonight, and to each of you for joining us for this important conversation. I am Dr. Tawana Grover, the superintendent of the Cedar Rapids Community School District. About 28 years in the area of education. I started out as a 5th grade classroom teacher, and I have certainly been through the traditional ranks of being an administrator, central office administrator, as well as at the campus level. I worked in the state of Alabama, my home state. I spent 13 years in the Dallas-Fort Worth area in Texas, and prior to coming here, 7 years in the state of Nebraska as their school superintendent. Definitely very humbled to be able to be a part of this journey with the Cedar Rapids Community School District as we continue to look for ways to best support our students.
Thank you. And I'm Carla Hogan, the Chief Financial Officer for Cedar Rapids Community School District. This is my 25th year in public finance. I worked for 2 smaller districts, one in Lynn County, Central City, and then I was shared with Monticello and moved to Solon. I've been at Cedar Rapids for almost 7 years, and I've been in this position for a little over a year.
I'm Bernie Hayes. I'm a 45-year resident of Cedar Rapids. Worked at Rockwell Collins for about 37 years as a systems engineer, and I'm retired now.
evening. Thanks for being here tonight. I'm Scott Trzymski. I am serving as the chair of the Vote Yes to Invest Committee. I'll talk a little bit more about this in my prepared remarks, but I served on the Facility Master Plan Committee and worked through the process to put together the plan that is part of the bond, part of the plan is the bond that is in front of voters here, and volunteered to take on this role. I'm a parent with a kid in the district and one that just graduated.
All right, well, thank you. Now we're going to open up for the presentations, and the Cedar Rapids School District will go first. Dr. Grover, if you want to come up, I will advance the slides, and the tech wizards are with us. They appear to be. We can get going.
So from here, I have to advance my own deck.
The down arrow is what we're on.
Okay, I need extra time. In the Cedar Rapids School District is every learner future ready. The vision allows us to make sure that our students, that they have a plan, a pathway, and a passion for their future. Just a quick overview of our school district to kind of level set who we are. We do serve about 16,000 students. We are the second largest school district in the state of Iowa. Our district covers about 121 square miles. We have approximately 3,000 staff members. Our general operating budget is around $238 million each year. We do have 55% of our students who qualify for free and reduced meals. And for our student population, we are a very diverse district, which we are very proud of. We have about 55% of our students who identify as white, and we have approximately 22% of our students identify as black, 11% mixed race, and 9% Hispanic students. We have about 60 different languages that are spoken within our school district, and about 10% of our students who are learning English as a second and sometimes third or fourth language. Okay, so how do I get to next? I'm sure this is not my computer. All right, so on September the 25th, our Board of Education adopted our new strategic plan. This was a result of a number of listening sessions with our stakeholders that involved students, staff members, community members. Individuals also had the opportunity to complete a survey. We were asking questions such as, what are we proud about within our school district? What are some things that need to be improved? What does success look like 3 to 5 years from now? This landed us on the 4 pillars that you see before you tonight. Pillar number 1, elevate plans, pathways, and passions for our students. It is our desire that our students, they graduate with more than a diploma, that they have the opportunity to graduate with college credit as well as industry certification, so that they are prepared to go on and acquire the quality of life that they deserve. In order to do this, we recognize that we must have safe and secure learning environments within our schools. We want to make sure that our students, that we have equitable opportunities for our students and that they are achieving at high levels. Pillar number 2 involves our staff. We cannot do this work without our staff. It is important to us that we maintain high levels of staff efficacy, that teachers and staff members alike, that they remember why they entered the field of education. Development and promotion, they understand that they can grow and have additional opportunities within our school district. We want to make sure, pillar number 3, that we are stabilizing our district. Part of some of the concerns that are impacting our facilities, it rests on the fact that over the last 15 years, we have been seeing a decline in our enrollment. We would like to see that enrollment stabilize across the district. We want to make sure that we're providing transparent and inclusive conversation that is part of our efforts here tonight, and building trust and credibility across all of our stakeholder groups. Pillar number 4 is mobilizing our community, making sure that our community members They see themselves as part of our school district, our family members, that they are engaged and involved. And of course, one of the top of mind areas of mobilizing our community is around investing in future ready now in our facilities. Facts to know about our facilities: the average age of our school buildings is 68.5 years. In fact, 74% of our buildings were built before 1970. 78%, and then when it comes to our operating capacity, we are about 78% capacity at our elementary schools, at our middle schools about 67% capacity. It's important for us when we are updating, renovating, creating new spaces, that we are addressing ADA concerns right now. We have been of our buildings while we are compliant. There are many limitations when it comes to being able to support ADA accommodations. Safe and secure learning environments, making sure that if there's a situation, do we have modern day technology that we can lock down our buildings. Let's take a look at the projects that are within phase 1. New 6th grade middle school. This would be addressing the students that now currently attend Harding Middle School that would feed into the Kennedy High School. Renovations of the Franklin Middle School, and by the way, Franklin turns 100 years old this year, so we are celebrating that. High school career and technical classrooms at each of the high schools, that includes Jefferson, Kennedy, and Washington. High school turf fields at all 3 locations. Renovations of the Kennedy cafeteria, as well as the Metro Gym update. Metro was a former Taylor Elementary School, and right now they have high school students that are attending the Metro Alternative School. They are competing within sports, but they do not have a high school size gym to accommodate high school students. Here's a look at some of the renderings that will be impacted. Here you see the renderings for the middle schools, and this would also allow us to acquire new land to build this middle school, and we will also make sure that middle school activities and improvements are there. For Franklin Middle School right now, they have to walk 2 to 3 blocks to get to their fields, and as you can probably see here in this photo, where the asphalt is cracked, and they also have to cross the street. Here you can see renderings for the high schools. We've talked about the additions for the career and tech centers, and it's important to note that for the turf practice field, that this is not just for athletics, it also impacts marching band, but particularly even some of our special education students, it allows them to be able to go outside and to participate in things like Special Olympics, where they could not do that on our fields now. Take a look at the breakdown of the costs that we have here. For the $220 million that we're asking for in the bond, you can see that the total comes above that, and that again speaks to the district is not coming to the taxpayers asking for any more than we have to, and utilizing other sources to take care of the bottom line of $237 million. How does this impact our tax levy rate increase of $2.70? We can see here a note, if your home value is about $200,000, the tax increase would be about $23.50 a month. Also to note here, as we take a look in regards to our comparison, right now, the tax ask for the school district is $14.67, and with the increase, it will go to $17.37. And so when we take a look at compare some of our surrounding areas, just to take a note, you mentioned that we've not passed a bond in 23 years, which impacts how much we have to ask for right now. Some of our neighboring districts, they pass bonds more often, so they're able to do them in smaller chunks. But if you take a look in regards to what they have passed over the last 23 years, Iowa City, which has a similar enrollment to us, around 14,000 students, they have passed bond measures up to $230 million. Prairie has passed $161 million, and they're only serving 5,000 students. And so Linn-Mar, they serve about 7,000 students, and they have also passed almost $100 million in bonds. So here is, the date is November 7th, and you can go to the Lynn County office to find out more information about your voting. If you want more information about this, you can go to field.crschools.us. I do want to note too, that we are conducting other information sessions. If someone was not able to make it tonight, you can go to our website and we will outline those dates and opportunities as well.
All right. Well, thank you, Dr. Grover. And I will ask questions. And maybe if you sat down, I took your mic, so I'll trade you back. I'll go to the podium and ask from here. And so a few questions that I have. So phase 1 calls for the construction of the 6th to 8th grade middle school. It would replace Harding as the feeder to Kennedy. Has the district identified a building site for the school? Does any of the land currently owned by the district work as that site? And how close are you to being able to say where that school would be?
So any land that the school district owns right now is more towards the west side of town, is my understanding. And, you know, I guess at the time, the thought was that the growth would take place in the west side, but we're seeing more growth when it comes to our students from the north side of town. And so you're right, the school would feed into the Kennedy High School. We have not identified a site at this particular time. However, I mean, the Harding site is already there, and we're definitely already experiencing challenges with the Harding site. And so that is certainly an opportunity I think that we should keep our eye on in regards to the current Harding site that we already own as a school district.
So just for a clarifying question, are you hoping to keep it as close as you can there? Or is there more you could say about that?
Well, definitely the goal is to make sure that the school is in close proximity to the students. And so for this particular site, we are trying to address students that will feed into the Kennedy area. And I do think that part of our due diligence is taking an assessment of the current site that we already have.
Okay. And one of the pieces in the phase 1 project is the career and technical classroom additions at Jefferson, Kennedy, and Wash. Can you talk a little bit more about the programs that are offered? What are the CTE programs? How many students are served by them? What students get priority to get into them?
Wow, so yes, that is definitely a question that we're not very proud of the answer. Right now, so many of our students, they're being turned away from the CTE programs that we have at our high schools just simply because we don't have the space to be able to accommodate the number of students. So for example, at Kennedy in their welding program, they only have about 4 welding stations, and they have 1,800 students that attend the Kennedy High School. One classroom can only accommodate those students, and they have a number of students that are on the waiting list. According to the administrators, they have to start with the seniors, and those are really the only ones that can take advantage. We do have a great partnership with Kirkwood, and even some of the resources that they have available, we're not maximizing that opportunity. We have about 14% of students that participate in the Kirkwood programs. The average for the state is about 34%. And so we have to really think about what are some of the barriers to our students being able to take full advantage of those offerings. And a lot of that does come down to transportation as well as scheduling challenges. But what I'm excited for is the opportunity to continue to work with our students and understand the passions that they have. Some of that work is already underway. The school district, we have formed a college and career readiness task force made up of business and industry leaders, the Economic Alliance, higher education partners from all over the community, as well as we have people at the state level that are helping us to really think about what are those high skill, high wage, high demand jobs that our students can be prepared for, so that they can be prepared to take the jobs that are right here within our community and within the region. And when we think about areas such as healthcare, we are a hub for healthcare, aviation, engineering, of course, education. All of those opportunities are areas that we are discussing right now as we plan to expand. Our promise to our students is that every student should have the opportunity to take career and technical education. We should not have to turn any student away, that every student deserves the opportunity to earn college credit as well as industry certification, and that's what this plan will allow us to do.
So for clarifying on that, if you are limiting it only to seniors now, is there a goal of how many students you'd have participating?
Yes, absolutely. The goal would be that when a student is a freshman, that they're allowed the opportunity to explore and learn about all of the career pathways, areas that are available to them, and the opportunities at each of the schools. Most likely there will be some unique offerings at each of the schools, but there should also be some standard ones as well. And once the student is in the 10th grade, they should have the opportunity to select a pathway, and that should be offered to all of our students. That does come with a level of investment as well as programming needs, but that is the strategic plan work that's underway.
Okay, and I will keep track, Bob, I'm still within my time window here. I will ask about optimal school size. So some of the schools that we see are elementaries operating at about 200, whereas some of the proposals for the middle schools would be to make them significantly larger. As you're building some of the other new elementary schools, I think they're closer to 600 students. Are there inefficiencies when schools are too big or too small? And on the flip side of that point towards student achievement, is there concerns that bigger students do, achieve less in bigger schools?
Well, there are many factors that come into play when it relates to student achievement. I think I'll just swing back to what you mentioned in regards to the efficiencies. And the district has done a great job over the last several years of engaging with the experts, researchers, demographers alike to understand the impact of school size. Number one, we talked about, for example, our middle schools. This is what we are addressing some of our secondary schools here with this bond effort, that they are operating at about 67% capacity. We still have to turn the lights on for 100% capacity. We still have to take care of all the aspects of the buildings, but yet we don't have the number of students to be able to accommodate it. What we are looking towards is moving to the 1,200 mark. It also allows the opportunity for our staff members to be able to team together to do some of the best practices, to be able to work alongside their professional learning communities, and to create smaller learning communities for students. So yes, especially if it takes a rural girl like myself, I'm from a small town where 1,200 was probably the population, that can feel quite large. But how the school is designed is to be able to create spaces for the 6th graders, for the 7th graders, for the 8th graders, and to break them down into teams. So they will have the same set of teachers that will be supporting them, the same set of counselors, and although we're getting the efficiencies out of the building space, we still create the smaller learning community so that we can provide that individualized and personalized attention for our students.
Okay, well, I have a whole pile of other questions, but to keep us on schedule, Bernie, I wanted to offer up the podium to you for words from the opposition, and I will try and advance the slide.
I'm Bernie Hayes, and I just want to let you know that we represent a coalition of folks. We don't have a committee with tens of thousands of dollars to support our position, but it's a bunch of folks who've come together to say, we see some concerns with this proposal, and that's what we want to present to you tonight. I'm gonna need your presentation, you will learn why it's critical to think and vote.
Closer, Mike. Can't hear you.
Can you hear me now? All right. Public measure G, 220 million bond. That means you will also pay interest. This 220 million bond will increase your property taxes by $2.70 per 1,000 for the taxable assessed value. Property assessed at $200,000 will cost the homeowner an additional $290 per year. You will be paying millions just in the interest alone. You've not been told how many years you will be paying for it. Your tax increase will likely be permanent. This is the last chance you may have to have any say in the master facility plan. Master facility plan eliminates neighborhood schools. You take a school out of the neighborhood, property values are impacted because people want to be in a neighborhood. They want to have their kids be able to walk, a short distance or at least a reasonable distance to be to school with their friends and their neighbors and so on. Okay, so understanding public measure G, approving this bond means you approve the second bond. Okay, so there's not just this bond, there's a second bond that follows, right? And a PPL extension, physical plant, equipment levy that goes with it. If this passes in 6 years, the district will be coming back for an additional $250,000 bond from you. I'm sorry. Yeah, get the zeros right. $250 million bond from you for the master facilities plan, which is phase 2. This is the second phase for the future bond that they will be asking for in 6 years. Okay. Approving this bond means you approve the second bond and the PPL extension. And then the question raises, renovate Viola Gibson, it's only 23 years old. Can we count on the district to build correctly? Your children will be paying for the bond and interest, and children will be bused away from home to much larger schools. We don't know where that location will be at this point. We have some ideas. But because of busing, district mileage will double from 5 to 10 miles to bus students. Students who are on the bus longer, and that can create some problems, exposure to bullying and maybe some other issues. One of the things that it impacts, and we're going to talk about a little bit, is intramural activities, extracurricular activities, because now you're being bused, and the time it takes to be bused from home and back and so on. Can you participate? How will the current bus driver shortage be solved? What's community? Community is neighborhood schools. Our students don't need huge and fancy warehouse schools. We don't need to compare ourselves to other districts. Maybe what we should be looking at is how much bang are we getting for our buck? How efficient are Cedar Rapids schools with the money that we have? Kids need individualized attention, better student-teacher ratios, a sense of community, more opportunity to participate in extracurricular activities, and as we mentioned, busing decreases or eliminates those opportunities. A decreased environment for bullying as well. Here's a little map, warehouse schools. They're building a new school. The new building would be number 1, we suspect, near Harding in the Kennedy area. And this is just a list of schools, high schools in particular, and you can see the enrollment numbers for them. For Jefferson, 1,500. and need this bond. So we're asking you to say no.
All right, if you guys want to go back to the seats, I'll ask some questions from the podium and then microphone. Okay, Bob, was that my time? Okay. So, you're advocating voters say no to the plan. Are there specific alternates or how, that you would make in terms of what the district should do?
Well, I guess that the school district brings them a lot of money per year. And all the time they keep claiming there is no money, there is no money. But as you can see, they bring that much money, what, 32 million per year to fix up infrastructure, to fix up schools, but yet they choose not to do that. Broke it, but I say, you have the money, why isn't it fixed? And they can't ever come back with an answer of why they don't fix the problems that need to be fixed. And instead, it seems like they just want to destroy or get rid of the schools that we have to build new schools because they want to downsize and get rid of the teachers and reduce the cost per student. And they want to build new schools to help bring in other students.
So for clarity though, facility funds are different than the money that's provided for staff levels.
But I'm saying if you close schools, those teachers have to go someplace and there's not enough positions open for schools. You're not just losing teachers, you're losing custodians, you're losing cooks, you're losing the people that take care of those buildings.
Okay. And so one of the questions that I would say, kind of flipping it around, so the district is in the process of building Trailside Elementary, which I think will open next year as a replacement to Arthur. And it had recently opened West Willow, and there's a significant cost difference between those two buildings for essentially similar sized buildings. Some of that's inflation. So, to those voters who are thinking about the timing of this, how would you, do you have concerns that you'll pay even more if you wait?
If we wait to build new schools, is that what
Yeah.
you're asking me? Well, we already know that currently they're over budget for the elementary plan. So that was supposed to be a $224 million project. And it's looking like it's going to be $428 million so far because they're over budget. So, I mean, I'm concerned about just tearing down schools if it's not necessary.
Okay. And if your efforts are successful and this is defeated, and I'll ask a similar question after the next presentation, what would you want to see done differently in planning going forward?
Well, I think that they should have included a plan that included every school. So they started with the elementary plan, and then they went to the middle school, high school plan. But it kind of doesn't fit together because now you're closing Harding, and they're going to get shipped. The kids that go there are going to go between Franklin and McKinley, and they're going to go to Washington. So currently, Harding goes to Kennedy, but now those students will no longer be going to Kennedy. They're going to be able to Washington. Wilson will be closed. Wilson students can only go to Jefferson. They are now going to go to Wilson.
But that's not in phase one of this plan.
Right, it's in phase 2, but it all goes together. You can't just build, so you're going to close Harding, and you're going to build a school up like it was proposed by Tower Terrace Road, let's say. So Harding gets closed, and the kids from Maple Grove are going to get bused up to Tower Terrace Road. And they want one middle school, or they want one for feeder schools is what they want to do. So they're closing, they have 6 currently, and they're closing 3 3 down, is what they want to do. So then you're changing the districts that way. So kids who are currently going to Harding won't be going to Kennedy, because Maple Grove would feed into Harding, and then they go to Kennedy. But now Maple Grove would go up to the new school, and then they would go to Kennedy. And then the Harding students, they would be going to Washington instead.
Okay.
So that changes the whole plan, is what it does. Because you get rid of the elementary schools, and then you get rid of the middle schools, but it all goes together.
In the 30 seconds that we have left, you talked about the concerns about construction age. What would you want to see done differently? I think you talked about some of the aging, how old will the schools age?
Yeah, so if I look at someone who's only 23 years old, and yet it still needs repairs. And the schools that they want to get rid of, we're not closing them and selling them off. We got rid of Truman, but yet the district still owns them. They're not selling those buildings. They still have to make maintenance repairs on Truman, but they got rid of that. There's other examples of other schools that they have closed, but they still own the property. So they're really not freeing up any of that money to use other places. They still own it and still have to take maintenance.
Okay. Thank you for those comments, Scott. I'm going to clean up my mess at the podium here and hope that I can switch slideshows.
Again, thank you, Zach. Thanks to the Gazette for the invitation to be here tonight. Thank you for each of you that are here. I have a lot of respect. I've known Bernie at least through family for a long time. Janelle, I know this isn't easy to get up and talk through that. I know I haven't been enjoying the thought of getting up and doing this tonight. So I really appreciate all the folks that are here. Of course, Dr. Grover as well. Opportunity I volunteered myself for. I'm a lifelong West Side resident of Cedar Rapids. Other than a few years of college at Iowa State and my first couple of jobs in other parts of the state, Cedar Rapids has always been my home. I'm one of many Jefferson graduates in my family. I'm also the father of a recent Jeff grad, and one that is a high school freshman, dual enrolled at Jefferson and City View. So my involvement in all of this started by filling out a form to show interest in the facility master plan process. This is probably, 3 or so years ago. I was pretty excited when I got an email that said I had been selected. I was excited right up to the point where I arrived and found out of the 30 or 40 of us that filled that out, we all got accepted. So I guess it wasn't that special. But again, it was the idea of having this big tent to allow people in to have their say as part of this facility master plan process. Over about 2 years, the team made visits, reviewed data, gathered community input, and provided an initial draft of the middle and high school plan to the school board. I can't speak for all the parents, community members, teachers, principals, staff, or district retirees in the room, but I will tell you that for many of us, the toughest part of serving on this community was recognizing there's no easy solution. I worked through several situations where my personal sacred cows that I walked into in that room had to be sacrificed for the greater good of our district students, their teachers, and our taxpayers. We are a district with little student population growth. Dr. Grover talked about that. A fleet of older schools that need investment that PEPL will no longer be able to cover in the years to come. More building capacity than students, and schools that are frankly designed for the educational needs of 50 or maybe even 100 years ago. Creating a plan to meet all of our facility needs, create equitable learning opportunities, and create fiscal sustainability for our taxpayers is quite the task. And quite frankly, we know change isn't always easy for us. That's one of the reasons that I'm actually pleased that the current middle school and high school plan that's been talked about most recently keeps all of our older middle school structures intact. In fact, I'll be honest with you, one of my fears is if we vote no on September 9th,
That brings this whole plan back up again, and the future of those historic middle school structures falls again into question. I know fiscal responsibility from a group that's saying let's raise our taxes might seem to be a message that doesn't quite fit. A couple hundred of extra dollars in new property taxes can be a very big deal for community members who are impacted disproportionately by their tax bill. That's why we need to recognize that continuing to underinvest in our schools today will harm district taxpayers in the future. Each year that we wait, our taxpayers pay more and get less in return for their investment in our school structures. And each year, our school buildings demand more investment to remain sound. I've heard some suggestions that there might be fiscal prudency in just investing less per school, like maybe putting $15 million into Franklin. But piecemeal renovations ultimately cost taxpayers more than addressing all the needs at one time. And the need for those remaining repairs that aren't funded, that doesn't go away. It just gets pushed down the road when inflation leads to higher costs for taxpayers. The lowest long-term option for taxpayers is to start making investments into our middle and high schools now. Let's not wait as the costs and needs grow. There are many things to talk about around community growth. I'm going to focus on one of them with my time. Workforce development is every community's largest challenge right now. In fact, the lack of workers has been a major driver in inflation nationwide. When we say this bond helps make Cedar Rapids competitive, it's not just about the structures. It's about our efforts to grow career and technology education opportunities. About 4 or 5 years ago, as part of a work trip, I had the chance to visit a high school in Wisconsin. They had just added a new addition to their high school, and inside that bright and fresh addition was the same modern technology being used by local manufacturers nearby. Students were getting high school degrees, earning professional certifications, and being offered good-paying jobs right out of high school, and they weren't leaving town to get educated at the risk of not coming back. This bond funds similar opportunities for our students. Investments in career readiness classrooms at Wash, Kennedy, and Jeff will build a strong community of workers, which is huge in being the state's leader in attracting growth to our community and keeping our young talent in Cedar Rapids. Ultimately, we're voting for student success. There's a white paper called The Impact of School Infrastructure on Learning, which synthesizes a number of studies on school environment from the last several decades. It was published in 2019. Within that study, it says, recent studies have shown that student performance is enhanced by schools with better physical learning environments. The empirical argument for investing in learning environment is strong. Furthermore, although casual evidence on the topic is scarce, there's a growing number of non-experimental studies that indicate that investments in quality school infrastructure are strongly associated with improved learning outcomes. The same paper highlights that a study suggests that nearly 40% of the variance in student achievement can be correlated to school climate and quality of facilities. I have a local, real-life experience that I can share with you. After the major renovations at Jefferson's cafeteria, a teacher shared with me how different the student behavior was in that space. They weren't leaving trash behind. They weren't fighting. They were caring for the space. The roadmap to assure student success includes investing in their learning environment. When I hear about the impact of new and remodeled schools for students, I wish we could do it all at once, but it's not feasible. The cost of that, and with the cost of everything that needs to be done, the district has split this into 2 phases, which we've already heard about. It helps taxpayers by spreading the cost of the investments. It also creates an additional input point where future school board members can work with cities, parents, neighborhoods, and taxpayers to determine what the next phase of the plan will actually look like. While potential solutions have been discussed, we saw one of the early versions in this last slide deck, there's plenty of time up to 2029 to provide the community ample opportunity to discuss and lock in what that phase 2 will go to as it goes to voters. So just to be clear, what you're voting on in November is the significant upgrades and additions to extend the life of our century-old Franklin Middle School, career-ready learning classrooms and outdoor activity spaces at our 3 main high schools, gym improvements at Metro, providing Kennedy students the cafeteria they need, and a new middle school to serve the north side of the community. And that's where I want to end. I know we've talked a little bit about where that school is going to be. I wanted to walk you through the process that I had to go through as a facility master plan committee member, and it led to me actually making a map. On this map, this is the Cedar Rapids School District as it sits right now. In green is the Kennedy attendance area, blue Jefferson, and red Washington. Once I built the map, I added on the school locations. Sorry, it's going to be hard to read. I want to point out to you, Harding sits at the very north end of that little notch in the Franklin territory today. I added onto it the designated areas from the federal government called disadvantaged communities. It's one way for us to visualize neighborhoods where there may be higher barriers to learning for our students. And then finally, I added the student density data provided to the Facility Master Plan Committee in January. The yellow areas on the screen are the highest concentration of students today. This was a huge driver in my thinking, and it should be considered by all boards and future Facility Master Plan Committees as well, including that group that decides what will be in a Phase 2 bond. When we look at Harding and where it's at, and where the population of students who will eventually go to Kennedy is at, you can see that, well, again, the Harding site might be a solution for a new middle school. It would be better placed farther to the north and west, if at all possible, where you have that community and you've got the higher density of students. That was my thinking, and to realize that a new north side middle school would make more sense. Did you know that today, if you walk from this high density area to your middle school at Harding, you would cross 5-lane Blair's Ferry Road, 6-lane I-380, 4-lane Centerpoint Road, 5-lane Collins Road, and 3-lane Council Street. And then you'd have to go down and around Mill Ridge Park to get into the school. To invest in the renovated Harding where it sits today is a potential solution, but maybe not the best use of taxpayer dollars. That new north side middle school will serve our established neighborhoods in that area and the highest density of students who already live there. And it makes a wise investment for the next 50 to 100 years. So thank you so much for taking the time to be here tonight. We hope you'll join with us in filling in that oval to vote yes on November 7th and to support the financial sustainability of our schools and show the value we place in our students and teachers. Thanks, Seth.
All right, thank you, Scott. And if you want to grab the mic from Bernie.
Yeah, I'll use this.
Oh. Well,
This one, take
you can use the wired one too. So I wanted to ask you a couple questions.
Sure.
So you've become kind of the face of the YES committee. Could you talk a little bit about who's with you? Are there other members of the business community? What does the YES group look like?
Yeah, sure. I'll start by saying there's a kind of a core group of, it kind of depends on the week, 10, 12, 20 people who have been part of this from the very beginning. So greatly appreciate them. A couple of them are in the crowd tonight, and I really appreciate the work that they've done to help out. We certainly have received support from the business community as well in support and funding and getting out the right messages about what's going to be voted on. We've had a huge support from our labor unions who recognize the need to invest. I know they love the CTE or the career-ready opportunities that could be in schools that will help provide the necessary workforce for the future. But that kind of gives you an overview. We've got folks from every quadrant of the city. Both myself and our treasurer are West Siders, but we've just been very blessed by the people who've been willing to support and help out.
Can you talk a little bit about the approach that you've taken? This vote has come up very quickly in terms of timing. Can you talk a little bit about why and how have you approached voter education?
Yeah, not everybody may know that the state legislature actually made a change during this past session where bonded votes, whether they're school votes or city votes, can only happen during a November election. And so with that, it then left the question of, do you do a vote in this November and do it quickly, or do you wait and do it next year against the presidential election? Actually, it was a reporter that called me and started asking me about this. It gave me this fact, so I'm going to trust that they had it right. But between 5 and 10% of bond votes that go on a ballot when the presidential election passed. Which is a much lower percentage than otherwise. And the reason is that you get more voters that are high information voters higher on the ballot, and then less information as they go. Plus, you're fighting in the space for time and information against the presidential candidates who have significant funding and ad buy potential, which we just don't have.
You mentioned a white paper in your presentation. For those who are nerds like me and might want to Google that and read it, I know we've had several questions. Where did you find that, and where would you point people?
Yeah, I would be glad if somebody wants to email me at futurereadyschoolcr@gmail.com. I can send you links. This is called The Impact of School Infrastructure on Learning, a synthesis of the evidence. It's by the World Bank Group. There's also another excellent one that I did not quote that's from the University of Oregon that goes into a lot of this as well and talks about it.
Okay. And then I would ask the question of, I haven't seen a lot of yard signs, vote yes. I don't think I've seen any actually. Is that a strategy, or is that a recipe of a hurried,
Yeah, it's being using your investments where they make the most impact. And again, we don't have tons of money to go spend on every little piece of a campaign that you might see in a presidential election, or even perhaps in some of the city council elections. And so yard signs, I've seen research that goes both ways, but generally the consensus is it makes us feel good to see signs that we agree with. It probably doesn't change the mind of voters. And so we're focusing on the limited resources we have in other places.
For those that, may be on the fence, how to vote, what do you think is the most important fact to remember?
I would say, again, it's the fiscal piece of this. Our schools are on a pathway that if we don't make changes, we're not going to be able to afford it as taxpayers down the road. And some of these changes aren't easy. I completely understand that. The things that we struggle with in the facility master plan discussion. But we do need to do and start doing things right away to help protect our taxpayers and make sure we're serving our students.
Okay. Well, thank you. I know I have a million questions in the pile, so I'm going to kind of move to those audience questions. And a reminder, if you have questions, Tony on the side here can grab those and we'll bring them up. I wanted to ask Dr. Grover, this was in my pile of questions that I didn't get to, and we have a lot of questions about this. But Taft and Harding, and you've made the decision to close those after structural concerns. I've seen internet comments questioning the timing of this, wondering if you could speak to that, as well as that you would hope to have more info on a plan from engineers and construction firms. But how is this impacting the students now, and how are you going to financially cover the repairs, and kind of speak a little to the scope of that challenge?
Yes. What an unfortunate situation for our students to be in. On October the 11th was the date that we received the information as it related to Taft Middle School and the structure of the domes. And at that particular point, the engineers, they did let us know that they could not advise us for our students or staff members to be in the space that they had identified within the East Dome. And this really poses a lot of inconvenience and concern for our families as well as our students. And most recently, yesterday, we had to address the situation at the Harding Middle School where we had to close both of the domes. I didn't wake up that morning knowing that I would get that particular phone call. However, we have to put safety and security of our students first. I do want to thank our team members for working alongside the administrators to be able to go over and specifically to Harding Middle School. Right now, we have teachers who just started the school year. They just set their classrooms up in August, but now they're having to disassemble them and move to other parts of the building so that we can accommodate the services and activities that used to occur within the East and the West Domes. So this is a huge inconvenience. Our students, they were supposed to have their first basketball games tonight, and they had to be canceled because of the facility concerns. The concerns we have with our facilities, they are real. The 23 years of waiting to address the facilities at large, and while the district has made many attempts through maintenance efforts, it's not been enough to be able to address the lifespan of the buildings where they have been exhausted. And so we will have to expend dollars even right now. One of the other questions I asked the engineering firms is, how long is it going to take, of course, for us to be able to get our students, but will they even last another 6 years as we work through these processes, because we know we're doing the bonds in 2 phases. And so we're definitely, this is a Band-Aid type of situation at the school, but it does not address the overall concerns of the facilities, and definitely do not address the overall concerns of the facilities at large.
I wanted to also ask some of the decommissions. Well, actually, on that point, just can you talk about what is the impact of the school day? If you don't have a cafeteria, you don't have a gym, what's happening there?
Yes, right now we've had to create makeshift cafeterias where our cafeteria staff, they're having to work double time to be able to get meals over to the campuses and just finding space within the hallways and other parts of the buildings as well. And they are doing a tremendous job. They're always putting students first. Also for band at TAF for the last few weeks, they've been in the hallway, in the entry. Some of the classes they've not been able to convene. Thank goodness the rain held off for our students where they were able to do PE outside. And so we will be working, I'm sure the team is over there right now at Harding trying to take down the walls and make new spaces so that we can have PE classes, that they can have their performing arts and so forth. So yes, our student learning, it is being impacted. So we have the research to talk about the impact of the facilities on our student learning, but we have real life examples that's happening right now in real time in Cedar Rapids Community School District that is impacting our students' abilities to be able to learn, as well as their activities and fine arts. We know that when students participate in activities, that the research has been clear for years that students do better in school, and so it's just a domino effect of the impact down to our students as well as our staff members.
One of the questions that we have from the audience, how long are property owners obligated to pay the added tax if this bond passes?
I'll let Carla answer the financial question.
Thanks, Dr. Grower. This $2.70, the bonds will be sold in increments and it will last for 20 years. So it'll be 20 years from when we issue our first round of bonds. So the votes in 2023, obviously we won't issue in 2023 or 2024. We'll issue our first round of bonds in the spring of 2025. And so it'll be 20 years from then, so to 2045.
Okay. And then another question that's here is, could you speak to the amount of money that is used to perform maintenance each year on facilities? How much is expended? What is it being used on?
Yeah, so we, out of our Pebble Fund, use our Pebble funds for maintenance on our facilities. And we also use some of our SAVE funds for projects. Technology is bought out of SAVE. We buy vehicles out of our SAVE dollars, buses. We use Pebble dollars not only to keep our facilities updated, but also parking lots. If you see in the summer, our asphalt parking lots have to have maintenance. So we use all of our dollars to fund projects that need to be done.
Okay. I wanted to ask a question related to the decommissioning of schools. And I think we've seen some that have, I believe, still are not used primarily as a school today, but maybe an early childhood learning center. And then we also in the city have the Ambrose Recreation Center, which was a former school district site, I think, has taken a significant amount of time in terms of redevelopment. And the question is, would you support formulation of a committee that looks at the possible reuse projects for decommissioned buildings, or how is the district going to make those decisions going forward?
Yes, I think the board has been clear in this particular area that we do need to determine a process to be able to work alongside partners and community members for the reuse of the facilities, particularly in some of our areas where the schools are located that we will be vacating. And just to be clear, as we move forward with this bond process, we're not tearing down any buildings that's related to this bond, so we just want to make sure that we have factual information and in front of us. And with that being said, we know that there are opportunities to redevelop the facilities into housing. And I would love to get to know other community members that are interested in that conversation, in that dialogue, so that we can make sure that we make good use of those facilities. There are many services that our students depend on. We try to maintain some of those services within our facilities, whether there's opportunities for health care or opportunities to skill up workforce for parents alike, language classes, whatever it might be, to support our students and their families, since they are in some of our neighborhoods. We would welcome the opportunity to partner with people to have further discussions.
And I'm getting the 2-minute warning before we go to kind of the closing comments. But I wanted to ask, it's come up that this is the first of 2 public asks, and Dr. Grover, you're new to the community and you've been meeting a lot of people. I think you've seen some frustration of transparency by past issues. And I'm curious, for those who may be on the fence, what do you see may be done differently under your leadership than what has been done previously going forward? What would you say to voters then?
Well, I really appreciate the opportunity to get out and visit with our community members, even going door to door, talking to people, and just hearing some of their concerns. We recognize that the facilities concerns that we have, it's about our infrastructure. But as a school district, we are definitely concerned about making sure that our students, that they graduate prepared in a way that our community expects. And that requires a great deal of effort on our behalf every single day that our students come to school. And so I have been very appreciative of the conversations. We spent a lot of time out in the community already, sharing information, doing the bus tours, hosting, forums, etc. I have already established a superintendent's community cabinet where we bring 40 to 50 people together once a month to have discussions about what's happening within the school district. We have several different task forces that have already formed so that people are working hand in hand with the school district in formalizing the strategic plan that came on the backs of many voices and people providing their input. And so we know that this is a collaborative effort. We cannot do this work alone. It's no way, and I don't intend to. As a matter of fact, I cannot do it without the support and the help of the community, our board, our teachers, our leaders, all of us. We need the support, and there's just so much more that we can accomplish together from our legislators and all of us, even the media being partners with us. It's all important of being able to share the wonderful experiences that our students are having. We do have some brutal realities that we have to face within our school district. There are some things that we need to improve on. We're not shying away from those conversations either, because when it comes to safety and security, mental health of our students, making sure that we retain our teaching staff, that we support our leaders, all of that, it comes from efforts, from working with the community. If we want our students to be future ready, that means that the foundation, it starts with us as the adults coming together and to unify around Cedar Rapids Community School District.
All right, well, I want to offer each of the groups here an opportunity for kind of final remarks. And so you get to hold the microphone, Dr. Grover, or you pass it. What are the points that you would want to make as closing statements this evening to leave those watching with?
We've talked a lot about the facilities here tonight, and the ultimate decision, we have done our due diligence. There have been several iterations of the plans, and we wanted to make sure that our community, that they have the facts. It is our goal that by 2037, that all of our buildings, they're either new or renovated, so that we have the quality learning environments that our students, that they need and deserve. But our work together as a community, this bond initiative is bigger than the facilities. This really is about the future of our students. It's about, no matter what the legislators may do, how they may change the laws and put us in a position where we had to move faster than we intended to, we have the ability to take care of Cedar Rapids, to take care of our community, to take care of our students. I know that it's an old saying, but our students, they really are the future. It impacts the vitality of our community. We stand ready as an organization, as an institution, to be able to partner alongside our community. there is so much potential here. And I am just excited to be a part of the journey. And we know that we're asking for a lot of trust from our community. And we're asking you all to hold us accountable. As we move forward, we work on the facilities, but we also work towards high academic achievements for our students and making sure that they are happy and healthy within our school district. That is something that we get the opportunity to do together. So thank you so much for your partnership on this journey.
All right, Bernie, Janelle, one of you gets the opportunity for final thoughts that you want to leave folks with.
I'll share some thoughts. You know, you asked earlier if you had some ideas on some alternatives. And one of the thoughts that we shared with our group was, for example, it hasn't been definitive where this new school would actually be located. But it appears it would be in conjunction or in the vicinity of, say, like Albernet or Linn-Mar, and therefore it would be a magnet for those districts and people who live in those districts to send their kids to that school. It's nearby. So why wouldn't we look at maybe partnering or working with the other districts if we're going to do something like that? You know, what's the big deal? We talk about cooperating and working and holding people accountable. Well, let's do that. Let's work together. We are in a period right now where we have the highest inflation in 40 years. Our utility rates are like up the roof, right? I saw a graphic the other night where buying power of people to go and just purchase a house is cut in half since 2020. So dollars are not going to be going down. I mean, they're losing value every day, and it's just inflating. So to act wisely, to act definitively, to act specifically, I think is really key here. And that's, I think, part of our trust is what we're saying here. Is we want some clear plans. We can take the funds that we have and we can renovate our schools, we can fix them, we can upgrade them, we can do that. But do we need 22 million to do it? 220 million. And then another one on top of that in 6 years. So that's the question.
Okay. And then Scott, final thoughts.
Yeah, thanks, Zach. And again, thanks everybody for being here. Thanks, Bertie, Janelle, Dr. Grover, Carla as well. I'll share. So my son is at Iowa State. He wants to be a music education major. He wants to be at Jefferson High School when he graduates. And I want him there. But I want to make sure our schools are in a condition that it's going to be great when he's a teacher and teaching there too. I also will share, I think it's important to talk about the successes that we have. We talked a lot about the buildings, the challenges there. Last year we got to sit and hear an amazing speaker, a young woman who came to the United States in middle school and graduated at the top of her class at Jefferson High School. There are some amazing stories of what's happening in our schools, transformational happening, life-changing, generational changing things happening. And to me, that investment's worth it. If we start there, a lot of the other things we're worried about solve themselves. Who's going to take care of us when we're sick at the hospital? Who's going to provide the services that we need? The future taxpayers of our district are in that group if we can keep them in our community. And so that's where I focus. Again, I appreciate the time and encourage you to vote yes if you're so willing to do.
All right, well, I think that concludes the time that we have this evening. I know that we've got to get cleaned up and out of the library before it closes tonight, so that's kind of what's driving that. I'd like to thank all of the participants and the forum attendees for your presence and your participation this evening, and the Cedar Rapids Public Library for providing a host site for an important community discussion. I wanted to talk a little bit about voting. A quick reminder that early voting is already available and can be done at several satellite voting locations. The deadline to request an absentee ballot be mailed to you has already passed, and those ballots have to be returned to the auditor's office or the ballot drop box by the close of the polls in order to have those counted. Satellite voting can be completed Tuesday through Saturday at the Lindale Mall until November 5th. Tuesdays through Saturday, voting can be done between 11 a.m. and 6:30 p.m. On Sunday, the satellite voting hours at that location are 12 to 4 p.m. It's closed on Mondays. Early voting will be available in this building Saturday, November 4th between 10 and 4, and at the Ladd Library this coming weekend between 10 and 4 on Friday and Saturday, and Sunday from 1 to 5. Polls on November 7th, Election Day, will be open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. You'll also find, in addition to this, you'll have City Council candidates on that ballot as well. You can check the Linn County Auditor's website to find sample ballots, poll locations, and other information. and you can reach them at 319-892-5300. On behalf of the Gazette, as we continue our 140th anniversary of providing local news and community conversations, we encourage everyone to participate in the democratic process and please vote. That ends it for us tonight. Thank you to everybody and have a great night.